Shake a man's hand and look him in the eye. Is that so hard to do? Don't blow smoke and don't tell lies. Son, just tell the truth. There's rumors going round all around town. You've been talking shit. I've never been a violent man. I'd rather be drinking beer. But that's the name Granddaddy gave me. And let me make it clear, you're gonna shut your mouth or say it to my face, or I'm gonna use your ass like a broom to sweep this place. Go on and call up your friends, you better bring a few. I come from a different time, when the men were all old school.
All right. Welcome to Cracker Culture, the podcast for real Floridians. Joining me is political analyst, multimedia commentator, Mr. Ford O'Connell, and I'm Smokin Joe. Before we talk about anything, I want to mention our sponsor, Farmer Joe's Fresh Market, located at 1401 Southwest Pine Island Road in beautiful Cape Coral, Florida. This week, let me tell you, Farmer Joe's has all of your Valentine's needs. They have a dozen roses, and I don't want to quote, but I can tell you they're under $25 for a dozen roses. And if you want to go out there and get something for your sweetheart, this is the time to do it. So visit Farmer Joe's Fresh Market, guaranteed the greatest grocery store in all of Lee County. Before we discuss the State of the Union Ford, I want to talk about this China balloon everybody's seeing. What can you tell us about this mysterious balloon?
Well, based on media reports, and I don't even know if we can trust those, that basically the Chinese Communist Party had a spy craft going from Alaska to North Carolina to gather surveillance. And essentially it was an 8-day trip. And in the process, the Biden administration was warned about it, let's say Tuesday of last week. And they basically tried to keep it hidden until some person in Billings, Montana took a photograph of it. I don't know what's worse here. The Chinese are spying on America, or the fact that the Biden administration was trying to keep it quiet?
Well, I want to play one little clip about the China balloon, and this is what really interested me.
There's the moon, right? And then there's that. What planet is that?
So the balloon is maneuverable. Clearly, it's violated U.S. airspace, and again, we've communicated that fact to the PRC.
If possible, can you tell us if the balloon, when it entered the U.S. airspace, has it changed its course in any way?
The balloon has changed its course, which is again why we're monitoring it. But that's
this is scary to me. This means that balloon. And he said that somebody was able to move that balloon, change its course. Now, that being said, there has to be a way with all those panels on it and everything. They were sending that information back to China from that balloon before we ever shot it down, I believe.
Well, look, I think you're absolutely right. That's why I don't call it a balloon. I call it a Chinese spy craft. I mean, clearly, when the U.S. military became aware of it over Alaska, they should have shot it down over what is known the Aleutian Islands, which is on the coast of Alaska. That would have minimized damage. The fact that they let it go all the way across the United States and go out in the ocean in South Carolina, to me, is extremely dangerous. And it shows me that they have no idea whatsoever how to deal with China.
Well, and somebody said that was like the size of like 3 school buses.
Exactly. The idea is that 3 school buses flying somewhere between 30 and 60,000 feet across the entire United States, and the United States military plays dumb until some civilian in Montana catches on. I mean, that is what should worry you. And then you listen to Joe Biden say, oh, China's not a threat. China is a clear and present danger to the United States and the greatest threat to the United States in the 21st century and to all of humanity for that matter. And it's time that we wake up. People should have woken up during COVID, and now they're actually seeing exactly how dangerous China is.
Well, and China's act like that just happened to fly off course, but when the Brigadier General tells us that it was maneuverable, that's not going to fly off course if somebody's controlling it.
That's exactly right. It appears to be a remote control situation because it knew what it was doing. It went over Alaska, then it goes over a piece of Canada, then Idaho, then Montana. Amazing. It managed to go by American missile silos and a whole bunch of other strategic places. So it's quite clear that it was meant to spy on the United States. And what we find out more and more is that this has been going on for quite some time. And I don't know what's scarier, that it's been going on for quite some time or the U.S. military just figured it out. I mean, either way you look at it, this is a very scary situation. And if you take Joe Biden at his word saying, gee, on last Wednesday, I ordered it to be shot down, and then the generals decided to wait till it was over the South Carolina coast, then I start wondering, is there actually a chain of command breakdown and where the generals decide, you know what, Commander-in-Chief, you don't matter. Either way, this should be the biggest story, at least of the year right now.
Well, and look, China is taking all kind of information from the citizens of the United States without, even trying. And you brought up one thing is this TikTok app, which I've seen videos. I've never signed up for that app. What is TikTok actually doing to the American people here?
Absolutely. TikTok is a short form video app, and basically it targets younger Americans. About a third of America's on it, and the average user who's a regular user of TikTok, I believe, uses it between 60 and 80 minutes a day. That's more than Facebook and Instagram combined. So that shows you the power that it has. But what it is for the Chinese Communist Party through its subsidiary ByteDance is the ability to collect behavioral and pattern of life data essentially on a third of America. Because remember, the Chinese Communist Party's ultimate goal is to not only be the military power of the world, but also to be the economic power of the world. And the best way to get information on your greatest adversary, the United States, is to collect it for free through an app that essentially every kid in America, basically everyone under 40 in America is using.
Well, I don't understand it. Like I said, there's a lot of funny videos, and a lot of people's using it for a platform to gain notice for social media. I've never used it. I don't think I ever would, because a lot of people I talk to, they don't even want to watch the videos people send out that comes from TikTok.
Well, look, there's a certain set of folks, particularly in Southwest Florida, that don't care much for social media. But this is a very serious danger. This is something that has been banned from federal government devices. There was probably 400 members of Congress agreed to ban it. It's been banned in half the states, in the state capitals. It is something that honestly needs to be banned nationally, because not only is the Chinese Communist Party able to collect data on people, but they have a set of algorithms within TikTok that allows them to push propaganda and basically indoctrinate the youngest minds in America. I mean, this is a true 21st century military weapon. Josh Hawley, I believe of Missouri, the senator, has put up a bill looking to ban TikTok, and frankly, Congress needs to take it seriously.
Well, I agree with you. I think that they need to look into this, because if it's, anybody can use this. Now, China don't let their people use this freely as we use it here in America. That's a totally different app over there.
That's exactly right. When you are a big tech company or any sort of tech company going into China, what they request is for you to have access to their population. They have to have access to the backside, the controls of your social media apps. So they're busy stealing and controlling what their people see, but they have no problem collecting data on us and throwing in a heavy dose of propaganda particularly when it comes to, how shall I say, the more woke items like diversity, equity, and inclusion, the usual nonsense you and I have discussed in the past. This is the easiest way, even greater than some of our public schools, to indoctrinate the minds of Americans.
I hope we figure it out. Well, Ford, I want to talk about a little bit more about that after we talk about the State of the Union. Now, yesterday I turned on the State of the Union. I'm going to show you the first thing I seen. And look, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's just badass. There's no other word.
Just notice that white line, everybody.
Look, I love Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm telling you, she's got cojones bigger than any man in Congress, man.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, I tip my hat to her for bringing attention to the Chinese spy craft. That was why she did that, because she understands what a clear and present danger it is. And I'm going to tell you something else about the State of the Union. Okay, it was the most dishonest and divisive State of the Union that I've seen in many years. It's not going to push the needle on Capitol Hill. And frankly, President Biden spent more time bashing Republicans than addressing the concerns of everyday Americans. And I think it was a real missed opportunity, but it tells you exactly who Joe Biden and the Democrats are.
Well, when I was watching the State of the Union, I mean, it literally gave me a headache. And I couldn't believe all the people who was cheering for this fool while he manipulated the truth in an effort to make his failures look like accomplishments. It's like we're in an upside down world. I just don't understand it. I'm going to show you one clip here before we do this. This is him. This is what he said last night. And if you can find any of this believable, you got to explain it to me.
Before I came to office, the story was about how the People's Republic of China was increasing its power and America was failing in the world. Not anymore. We made clear, and I made clear in my personal conversations, which have been many, with President Xi, that we seek competition, not conflict. But I will make no apologies that we're investing to make America stronger. Investing in American innovation and industries that will define the future that China intends to be dominating. Investing in our alliances and working with our allies to protect advanced technologies so they will not be used against us. Modernizing our military to safeguard stability and deter aggression. Today, we're in the strongest position in decades to compete with China.
Now look, I work on farms. I know bullshit when I come across it. That's some pure level bullshit if I ever heard it. Tell me where he's telling the truth in anything he just said.
It was all, you're right, it was all head scratching nonsense, and China clearly after 8 days is not shaking in its boots. And let's remember, our trade deficit is at the highest it's ever been. Not only does China want to conquer us militarily, they want to conquer us economically, and the way that they're going to do it is by owning our supply chain, which Biden has done nothing to fix. And at the same time, they're going to try to own our debt, which he continues to rack up with ridiculous spending programs that don't benefit the lives of average Americans. China is in the strongest position it's ever been to dominate the United States, and it is time that Americans wake up. Unfortunately, I don't think enough Americans and even enough Republicans are aware of exactly how dangerous China is.
Well, and you know, like I said, I tried to watch as much of it as I could, and at the end, Lauren Boebert, she's another badass. Let me just tell you, and this is I want to show you what she said. This is after the State of the Union, and probably one of the most truthful things I heard out of the State of the Union all night.
The best part about tonight was Nancy Pelosi not sitting behind the podium at the State of the Union. I was seriously disappointed in Biden's speech tonight. No real solutions on the border, nor did he take responsibility for the invasion of millions of illegals entering our country. No proposal on how to end the fentanyl poisoning killing Americans. No vision for how to lower inflation. He attacked and disparaged American energy producers. He lied about Republicans wanting to cut Medicare and Social Security. We made it very clear tonight that is off the table. All Joe Biden did was try and personally take credit for America recovering from the COVID pandemic when Democrats shut down our businesses, schools, and churches. There was no hint on ending vaccine mandates for healthcare workers. Instead of lies and grandstanding, Joe Biden should come to the terms with the fact that Republicans now control the House, and he needs to start negotiating with us if he wants anything to pass. Another fail for Joe Biden tonight. The best thing I can say about the speech is it's over. Now let's make...
Best thing she said about the speech is it's over.
Well, there's no question about it. Look, the New York Post said Biden lied so many times that they lost count. He tried to say he's created 12 million jobs. No, he's restored a little bit more than 10.5 million jobs that COVID didn't shut down, but the Biden administration itself shut down. And when it came to the worst border crisis in American history, he had a 72-minute speech that spent 4 lines on illegal immigration, and then he had the balls, if you will, to turn around and say it's Congress's fault when we all know darn well he has it within his power to severely mitigate that crisis. And I'm going to tell you something else. When it came to, there was a third item here. You had China. Oh, the idea is that's the whole point. Okay, what Lauren Boebert said about Medicare and Social Security is this was not a State of the Union, because we all know the state of our union is not strong. This was the unofficial kickoff speech for Joe Biden's presidential bid in 2024. And basically what he's going to tell you is he says he wants to unify, but he's going to fearmonger and he's going to scare the bejesus out of seniors by saying Republicans want to cut Social Security and Medicare. And essentially every fact checker, even the worst liberal fact checkers, say that that's a complete lie.
Well, I mean, if the Democrats were to use Biden as their candidate again, do you think that they would actually leave him in place? Can we survive another term of the Biden administration?
No, I don't think we can survive another term of the Biden administration, because he talks about the progress he's made in America. I didn't think you could ruin America this badly in 2 short years, but Joe Biden has been able to do it, and he lies. Basically, he says, I'm all about unity and compromise, and then he basically slams the Republicans into the ground. And if you noticed last night, you didn't hear anything about transgender or diversity, equity, and inclusion. You didn't hear any woke talk. What you heard him do is rip from Donald Trump, trying to sound like some sort of populist conservative when it comes to Made in America. And now he's changing his game face to say, gee, I'm a unifier and I'm a centrist. And I'm going to tell you, there has been nobody who's been president of the United States who's done more to push the socialist, communist, progressive agenda than Joseph R. Biden. And unfortunately, he continues to get a free pass from the media, and he plays chameleon just before elections.
Well, you know, and I watched some of the other outlets that talked about pre the speech what he was going to talk about. And one of the key elements that he was going to talk about was fentanyl. He really didn't even breeze past.
Well, that was exactly the point. He spent 4 lines talking about border security, and within that, he even got his data on fentanyl wrong. And you and I know that fentanyl is the #1 killer in America of people between 18 and 49. And why has fentanyl increased so much? Because he refuses to secure the border. Securing the border is not only about illegal immigration, it's about national security, domestic security, and not making sure the drug cartels continue to run a bonanza across the entire North American continent.
Well, it amazes me that we can sit there and listen to it. I don't know how people cheered. I don't know how people walked away from watching that feeling good about life, because it surely gave me no aspirations of better things to come under the Democrat rule.
Well, I think you make a good point here. Remember, this speech, they'll say it was the State of the Union. When I say it was his unofficial kickoff speech for 2024, remember, only 37% of Democrats, according to ABC News, believe that he should seek a second term. So he is now busy trying to convince Democrats to stick with him, and he's going to crisscross the country and continue to push this nonsense following the State of the Union. And think about the catchphrase. What did you hear most often? Let's finish the job. You and I go, what job? You're doing a terrible job. But that's what he's trying to, how shall I say, brainwash Americans into thinking the Republicans are bad guys. And I think that the real star of the show was Sarah Huckabee Sanders in her response, who basically said Joe Biden's going to double down on crazy, and the election in 2024 is very simple. It's normal versus crazy, and Republicans are the normal.
Well, let's come on to Florida, where I think we have our crazies, but they all come from up north. What can you tell us about what happened with Disney? I mean, with the Reedy Creek incident, we got some tax money out of them, but I mean, is it a real win, or how do you feel about this?
I'm going to be patiently optimistic. I tip my hat to Ron DeSantis for taking on the Mouse House, punching them, and drawing a line in the sand, particularly over their threat to the parental rights bill that we had last year. And look, there's no question about it. Disney is going to continue to push the progressive envelope. You even have Disney shows talking about reparations. Now, when it comes to the Reedy Creek Improvement District, 39 miles in Osceola in Orange County, that Disney operates as its own sort of corporate country, if you will. What DeSantis is proposing up in Tallahassee under HB 9 is that the Disney board that's going to control Reedy Creek is going to be picked by the governor rather than by Disney. I think that's an improvement. I'm going to reserve judgment, but I'm not sure it goes far enough. And I think the reason why it doesn't go far enough is something you and I have talked about. It comes down to that bond debt. How do we make sure that Disney is still paying that bond debt versus Florida taxpayers?
Well, now you brought up something when you were talking off air about Disney Plus. Now, Disney Plus, along with a lot of other platforms, are still promoting a woke ideology. What can you tell us about what's going on with Disney Plus?
Well, Disney Plus has been on the forefront of what the Democrats call diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we should just learn that that is very simply woke nonsense that is being pushed, because Disney sees itself that if it can push this type of garbage, whether it's transgendered stuff, whether it's reparations, you name it, they believe that the woke left will leave them alone to run their corporation. And they don't seem to understand that when you bend the knee to the woke left, they're only going to want more. So they're using Disney Plus as a vehicle to keep the woke mob away from them. And they don't realize what a losing game this is.
Well, and Ron DeSantis, it really is trying to keep this woke ideology out of Florida. And he's still, I mean, they're not letting up on him calling out the books from the African American AP books. And you know, I said there's a lot of stuff in these books that don't have nothing to do with Africans at all.
I think that's exactly the point, okay? You know, in the mainstream media, pile-on is very similar to the alleged Don't Say Gay bill that we saw with parental rights. They try to name it and say that Ron DeSantis is George Wallace at the schoolhouse door trying to prevent African-American history from being taught. And that is a straight lie. What they are using is they're using African-American history, the woke college board, to piggyback and push other progressive ideas, particularly about queer thought, transgender thought, and God bless Ron DeSantis for putting his foot down. What's amazing is only one governor in one state, our state and our governor, spoke up, and the AP College Board changed the materials. Now imagine what would happen if other governors spoke up about some of the curriculum in their states, or the curriculum or the TV shows, generally speaking. I promise you Disney would think twice before they start producing that Louder and Prouder animation show that they have on Disney Plus, because I promise you it would come into question. If you don't fight things right off the bat, you're only going to get mowed down by the woke mob.
Well, and I told you that, you know, everything it seems that we watch anymore has some element of this diversity, equity, and inclusion in it. I mean, every's got a he, she, they, them in them. It's something. I mean, you literally cannot watch on Netflix, Hulu, Paramount. You cannot watch a show without there being some element. They're conditioning the younger generation to accept it as all okay, anti-religion, families, and this is being just basically beat into our children's brains and our young adults. Some of our young adults are impressionable.
Well, that's exactly right. Streaming services are the new gateway to the Marxist agenda, and they try to backdoor it behind children's films, children's toys, children's books, you name it. Unfortunately, that's why this ties right into TikTok. This is no different than TikTok. The difference is you see a Disney corporate seal and the mouse house and the ears behind it. And I think that we have to start questioning many different things when it comes to the products that are being marketed to people under the age of 40.
Well, I hope that, it's sad because, I remember going in the 70s as a child to Disney. And, that was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I can remember taking my granddaughter to Disney about, 5 years ago, and it was a horrific experience and extremely expensive, and you didn't get near what you paid for. And to think that this same company that's took my money all these years are going to try to indoctrinate my children, I don't think that's a good business plan for anybody.
No, I agree with you, and I'll say this. Walt Disney, the founder of Disney, if he saw what was going on today, he'd be rolling over in his grave. It was about family entertainment. That was the point of Disney. It was not to be an indoctrination porthole into destroying the United States of America. And that is what, unfortunately, it's become. I was at Disney in the 70s and 80s, too, and I'll tell you, I loved every moment of it. Heck, I think our governor might have even gotten married at Disney. We all have fond memories of Disney. We want to see Disney succeed. We want to see Disney succeed in Florida. But this stuff has got to stop. And the problem is Disney shows no sign of learning its lesson. And that's why Governor DeSantis has to be successful when it comes to Reedy Creek. We want good corporate citizens, but we don't want good corporate citizens that are trying to destroy America and Florida.
It's unimaginable to me some of the things that we're seeing these days.
Well, the craziest part is I talk to my nieces and nephews about this stuff and they think I'm crazy, okay? Because they don't even realize that they're being brainwashed. And you know what happens when you're a busy parent like you are and like many others across Southwest Florida. The problem is you get home, you try to spend quality time with your kid, and you realize that you don't want to have an argument about something because if you do, your kid's not going to listen. And this is the double where your back's against the wall. And at some point, if you don't address it early on, it's only going to get worse. And, you'll talk to a lot of parents, oh, my kid's a good kid. They wouldn't dare listen to that nonsense. And, boy, as soon as they're not in the house, what are they doing?
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, I want to talk about Fort Myers a few minutes. And last night there was another school board meeting, I attend. But the meeting really started out. It was supposed to be about the proximity plan, and I want to play a small video. I talked to Dr. Doug Santini's wife, who was there, and she didn't speak at the meeting. She had plenty to say, but some of the things she said was telling. And before I put this video, I want to apologize. I know that we're having some audio trouble on my end. We've tried about 9 mics and can't figure it out. We got an AI guy coming to try to work on it to see if it's the platform. But so I kind of took my voice out of most of this because changing mics again, it was horrible. But just watch what Dr. Santini's wife, Vicky, had to say about the school board here.
Well, the proximity plan basically was a plan that Greg Atkins did back when he was assistant superintendent, which was like 15 years ago. Every superintendent since then would not go forward with this plan because it was very disruptive. Okay, right now the plan that they're doing Greg Atkins' plan, which Adam Malloy has presented to everybody, is basically you're going to send at least 10,000 students will be displaced out of the school district. Parents don't know about this. We talked to about 50 to 90 parents the other night, and nobody knew anything about it. Nobody knew about carpooling. So I don't know where Dr. Bernier says people were calling up saying they were carpooling. I don't think he talked to anybody.
Well,
I don't believe the man.
I noticed that several of the parents that came last night even made the comment they had no clue that this was even going on until they heard it on the news essentially an hour before the meeting.
Well, I'm very upset. Number one is because my husband went in to talk to him, and he was very condescending to him. It was like him against three other people ganging up on him, which is totally inappropriate. I mean, he went in there to talk to Dr. Bernier. He didn't go in there to talk to everybody else. He wanted to have a one-to-one talk to him, but apparently the man is afraid to speak with him by himself. I don't know why, but he basically has a problem with my husband because he's called him. And I was very upset last night. The reason I didn't get up for public comment because I was really hot. My husband says, I don't want you getting dragged out of here by the sheriff's department. He called my husband selfish. Well, I can tell you right now, my husband is not selfish. All the things he's done for this community, and basically the 5 generations of Santinis that have done for the community, they're not selfish people. And then he called him racist. Racist. I mean, how can you even say that he's racist? He was the first person in this county to hire a black administrator and name a school after her. So how can he call him racist? I talked to Jerry Ware last night. She says, don't get that under your skin. Everybody knows Doug, knows that he's not this kind of man. But, he's just spouting out things on him that he doesn't even know anything about. And I don't know, I think this is basically a reflection of himself. So many people in the district has told us that he's a big bully. He goes around telling the leadership team that they're just servants of the community when he was talking about a leadership workshop yesterday. Well, he treats people very poorly, and he's always threatening to kill their jobs, and there's no team concept there. And it's about time. Well, first off, I think the board members already had their mind made up weeks ago on this, and I don't know why. They weren't listening to the public, unless this is a plan to probably disrupt the community, so maybe they have to fire him. I mean, I don't know. They want to fire him. Like somebody was telling me that they're going to put a person's daughter in there because she's pregnant. She doesn't want to be a legislator anymore, and they're going to put her in as superintendent. The chairman of the school board is going to put his daughter in as superintendent. I mean, come on. And then they were going to put Amira Fox in there in person seat, in that seat, and then have Spencer Roach take over the Attorney General's place. Who's doing around? This is like a shell cast game here. Should people even go out to vote? I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, I wrote everybody about what Doug said about Dr. Bernier yesterday, and nobody has really answered me back except for one person. And we told him, I says, when he says stuff like that to you, you need to stick up for him. You know him. You know our family. You know how long we've been here. And you need to stick up for him and tell him this is not true and just not listen to him. Just stop him right where he is. So, anyways, out of the academy, there is 250 kids that will be affected out of 400, which is a lot of people. I think Edgewood, I think it's 80%. They're sending people all over the place. Instead of trying to solve this problem here, they should probably solve the transportation. I mean, they have all these great minds down there. This is what they should probably be solving. They have school buses that go to the high schools. There's 10 high schools, and a third of them are filled up because all these kids drive to school now. They don't take the bus. Use those buses. I mean, come on. You don't have to be a space scientist to figure this out, So the bus goes to 2 or 3 stops, so they fill the bus up. Then they have an extra 2 buses to use. I mean, what they did is ridiculous. It's very disruptive to the community. It's going to be very disruptive to the academy. The academy has worked hard in the past 15 years, getting it to where it is. It is a gem. It is a gem, and for some reason, this man wants to destroy it, and I don't know why, I don't know why Adam Malloy wants to destroy it.
That was Dr. Santini's wife, Miss Vicky Santini. Now, the Santinis, for some of the comments said about the Santinis was ridiculous. I have everything I've ever done for the children, the Santinis have showed up.
Look, there's no question that they define public service, when it comes to the school district. But let's look at this again. I think she raises a couple of great points. One, people should pay attention to the proximity plan. And the second is, why can't you fix the transportation to do this rather than disrupting 10,000 plus kids? To me, disrupting 10,000 plus kids is absolutely ridiculous, particularly in the wake of COVID and all the disruptions, learning loss, psychological problems that resulted in. But I think there's something even greater here, and you and I often talk about this, is the shell game when it comes to leadership positions in Lee County. And the fact of the matter is that if Jenna Persons going to become superintendent and her father's the chairman, boy, that seems like a conflict of interest. And this is just going to happen unchallenged. That means that the people, the powers that be, the marionette players in Lee County have already decided for you what is best for you. And I think people should push back.
Well, I don't understand how they are able to do this shell game they're doing. And now what she said, and I'd heard this rumor before, and I was going to talk to you about it. She just brought it out and opened the door for me to mention it. But the story I was told is that Amira Fox was going to run for Attorney General, okay? And that they were going to then have Spencer Roach or Jenna Persons run for state's attorney, and whichever one didn't run for state's attorney would be put into the superintendent place. So if this is the way it's going, then we're telling you this way before the election. So if you start seeing that gear that way, you know that the establishment is doing exactly what I've said they've been doing all along, is they're not letting you choose who is best for your community. They're choosing who is best for the establishment politicians and their constituents.
Well, the establishment's all about holding on to power. Look, I can't talk to Amira Fox. Ashley Moody's going to be term limited. She wants to run for Attorney General. God bless her and good luck. But when it comes to Spencer Roach and it comes to Jenna Persons and playing a shell game with different open seats in Lee County, that's problematic, because not only are they telling you what's best for establishment politics, they're going to scare anybody else off who decides to challenge, whether it's for state attorney or whether it's for that state house seat, or whether, the board's going to look at anybody else as a candidate to be superintendent. This is absolutely insane. They have this whole place on lockdown, and when you question them, they tell you that you're disrupting it, and they don't want to give you a choice. They are just like the Socialist Democrats. They're going to tell you who's next up in line, and if you question it, they're going to come after you. I mean, the Chinese Communist Party hasn't had it this good.
And again, like I said, the school board meeting last night, so I can tell you kind of a little bit what happened. When they went to start out with public comments, the chair, Armor Persons, dictated how things could be said. And I'm going to throw a video on after the show of what actually happened there. But automatically, one of the constituents stood up and said, that's a violation of the Fourth Amendment. You can't tell people what. He is continuously like a bumbling fool, just tripping over his own words repeatedly. And, when does the people not say, wait a minute, we've been duped? I mean, we've got a stooge in the seat.
Well, you'd think that the results would trigger more public interest. Unfortunately, again, you're one of the people that goes regularly to the school board meetings. Not a lot of other people do. I think just watching us talk about this should cause other people to go there. And that's the great thing about our constitutional republic. You have to really want and earn your citizenship. And if you're not going to be a good citizen in Lee County and you get bulldozed by the establishment, let's be honest. Let's not blame the establishment. Let's blame the actual people who aren't taking part in doing their civic duty.
Well, and there's a lot of backroom deals and things like this that goes on in Lee County. And if you don't believe it happens in the school board, a former school board member, a recently former school board member, she's a Democrat. However, she posts on social media that there's many violations of the Sunshine Law. They do it all the time.
That is not good. And I mean, again, it does come from a Democrat, but I mean, let's be honest, it seems very logical. And the fact that they're violating rules and sunshine laws is something, again, that people need to keep an eye on. You can't continue to allow this stuff to go on. That's why I told you, when you see this sort of stuff, you have to confront it right away, because if not, they're going to continue to do it, because when there are no consequences, those who break the law will continue to do it.
Well, they literally don't have no consequences. And I spoke last night. The reason I spoke is we had an outside investigator from Georgia that investigated the board, and they found reasonable cause of corruption that they recommended it be turned over to law enforcement. So, we discussed this, and if it is handled locally, there's way too many conflicts of interest. And the rumor I've heard now is they're going to try to run it through Amira Fox and Carmine Marcino's office. And the problem I got is not that I think that Carmine or Amira is going to do something sketchy. The problem I got is there's some vendors that's wives work in high levels for Carmine. There's people kin to these people. It needs to go outside of the area. Even if I was sitting there as one of them investigating, I would recuse myself, because it needs to go outside of our area where people can just look at it from the outside looking in and say, wait a minute, because it don't look right if you ain't from here.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to question Carmine and Amira's integrity, but to your point, we already have that in Florida. If you see a conflict of interest in your Carmine or your Amira, then you push it to another county, district, area, whatever, and that happens all the time. We saw that a couple of times with the Broward Sheriff's Office, where it had to be pushed to another part of Florida because people thought that everyone was just a little bit too close to the situation and couldn't be objective arbiters, even if they can. That's the point. That's why we remove cases to different parts of Florida, is to make sure that we have a neutral oversight board.
Well, it's almost difficult, though. I got to thinking about it. Even if they moved it to a different county in Florida, all these politicians get together in Tallahassee. It ain't like they ain't going to talk to each other before it goes to trial or goes to under investigation.
That's what we're working with, and I agree with you. You and I often talk about the swamp in Washington, D.C., but I'll say this over and over, in Tallahassee, the Republicans have got a pretty little swampy thing going on, and if more Republicans really saw what was going on and we didn't agree with the overall goals of some of the things being pushed forward, and they didn't have an R next to their name, we'd be screaming at the top of our lungs.
Yeah, well, I want to speak to you about something else here in Lee County, and because at the end of this show, I'm going to throw a video of the school board last night for people to watch, but something come across my desk the other day, and I didn't want to mention it until I had some type of basis to mention it. And I need to ask you if there's anything wrong with what I found here. I found in Commissioner Kevin Ruane's notes here that he had took some people on a ride in the sheriff's helicopter. This is more than once. Once I can understand, but some of these people weren't politicians. They were other people. I don't know. Is this legal?
It's definitely something you should keep an eye on. Look, I'm not going to question Kevin on that front, but I will tell you, I've come across many of these alleged lobbying reports, and they need to be dug into. I've seen situations in Lee County where people were lobbying county commissioners and kind of getting away with it without naming names. It's very, very questionable. And a lot of times the information you need, Joe, is right in front of you. You just need someone to be able to read between the fine lines. Again, not questioning Kevin, but you should keep an eye on it.
Well, I'm not questioning Kevin's integrity because I don't know. That's why I asked you, because if something looks a little bad, it's best to try to find out if there's something there or not. So, I mean, maybe Kevin will contact us and tell us what's up with the helicopter guys. Maybe he'll give us one.
Yeah, and that's what I was telling you. I mean, there's a lot of these lobbying reports where they disclose things in a very open-ended way that, frankly, should bring public alarm and should bring a lot more questions, but they're usually tucked away and people don't go looking for them.
It's just incredible. I mean, I can't help but I just know that I couldn't go in and call Carmine and say, hey, I need your copter here. I need to go fly around and show some people what happened around here. I mean, I understand you got to assess some damage, but, you just can't be using community property. I mean, Kevin got enough money to rent his own helicopter.
Well, I think that's the real question, whether it's Kevin or anybody else. Is this a misuse of public resources? I don't know the answer to the question. All I've seen is a report, but I think that's the real question. Is this a misuse of public resources, particularly the people of Lee County? And I don't know the answer. I'm going to say it's not, but if you keep digging into that report, maybe something does turn up.
Well, on the last note, and I didn't talk to you about this, I'm going to mention that the city manager of Southwest Florida's largest city, Cape Coral, Mayor John Gunter has said that he will not extend his contract. It will not be renewed. It said that it was due to his evaluation report. He scored a 3.8 out of 5. So they're going to try to make some changes in Cape Coral. It just makes me wonder. I mean, they did vote on it. There was 2 that voted against him being pulled off the board. But, that's awful, with new board members voting to get rid of this guy. That's pretty, they really have a lot of time to even evaluate the job he was doing since they've been in office.
Yeah, I think that you have to wonder whether this is political or good governance, and it seems to be based on the short time period and everything else political. But, the jury's still out there, but it seems to be that the powers that be within the establishment have been focusing on Cape Coral in particular when it comes to how they want to rework Lee County.
Yep. Well, we got a lot of changes coming in Cape Coral and Fort Myers Beach, and so if you ain't seen them before, it won't be the same when you see them again. That's 100% true right there. Well, Ford, what you got coming up?
Well, his Biden State of the Union is the gift that keeps on giving. Going to be talking about that. Going to be talking about the China spycraft. But I think one thing that's very interesting here is it seems that there's a concerted effort within the Democratic Party to get rid of Kamala Harris. Basically, they're saying Joe Biden's going to run. Joe Biden may win, but if Joe Biden wins, he isn't going to be the president of the United States, which really is scary to think that the Democrats in front of everyone can engineer who the next president of the United States is right before your eyes.
Yeah, well, it's all going to be an interesting turn in the world here. Well, Ford, I appreciate you coming on the show with me as always. It's always good to talk to you. Your insight keeps us motivated through the week. We love you, Florida. Love, peace, and gator grease.
Next on our agenda is public comment. But before we begin public comment this evening, I want the public to know that the school board wants to hear from you and respects your right to come to these meetings to share your thoughts and concerns. Your voice is very important and protected by law and policy. During the public comment period, the school board does not discriminate on speech and its viewpoint is neutral. State law says you have the right to speak on any proposition before the board, such as the action items on the consent agenda. Our policy allows you to speak on any matter dealing with the operation of the school district. However, there is a way to say things, so keep the decorum to allow this board to conduct its official government business. You can say, Mr. Chairman, I disagree with your vote. Superintendent, I have a thought of you on this plan. You can share concerns about your elected officials and how they handle their duties and responsibilities. You can make comments about how the district is functioning. You can even say we're doing a good or a bad job. However, we will not accept personal attacks on staff, school officials, or school board members, for example, calling someone a name. The disclosure has to be elevated and professional, mirroring our responsibilities for approximately 13,000 staff members and close to 100,000 students in our district. Attorney Dupay Bruno, please address the item of public consent.
The statement that was made by the chairperson before the public comment tonight also violates our rights. You don't have the right to tell us what we're allowed to talk about. Let's not go down this road again. It is not a pretty one. We the people have had enough. I know each one of you has one of these. Read it.
My name's Smokin Joe. The student representative gave out a word today, and it was honesty, and I know many of you ain't good with that word. I'm going to propose we get a new word this month. How about the word kakistocracy? I'll spell that for you, Armor. It's K-A-K-I-S-T-O-C-R-A-C-Y. I'll use in a sentence for you. This board is the worst kakistocracy Lee County has ever seen. The board has become impossible to underestimate. I'm not insulting the members of the board. I'm just describing how you are to the public. Painfully, we come to express our concerns and grievances with the officials empowered to act on our behalf when a simple request for the board to do a forensic audit is not addressed. It increases speculation of corruption. Over $80,000 of our taxpayer money is spent on investigation. Does not one of you have the ethical values to send their findings to the Federal Department of Education Office and Inspector General's office? Matter of fact, if it's needed, I have Special Agent Chris Hesberger's contact information I can give to you if you need. He would do this investigation without a cost to us at all. Why we don't use that, I don't know. Armour mentioned a 32-page report in the last action meeting. I want the public to know that his vague reference is about the Taylor English investigation. These investigations from a Georgia company found sufficient evidence of corruption to recommend the matter be turned over to law enforcement. Board members with ties to vendors and local law enforcement is by far a conflict of interest, and clearly only fools will accept another round of this self-investigation. I was going to also address the pulled motion of policy 2.0622, student and parent complaints. I'm glad to hear that the board attorney had enough sense to pull this policy. This is stupidity at a level beyond belief. For the parents of special needs, students can be tragic. For other students,
Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
for 30 days for their educational experience.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm
Phillips.
sorry if our children's education gets in the way of y'all's